Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to beautiful Birmingham this morning. There was an early shower, and I must admit, when I woke up, I was a little bit perturbed, but it has come out for another day of the World Junior Ultimate Championships 2024. We're in the mixed division. We break into power pools for the first time this week, and we have a tantalising encounter between Italy and Singapore. Benjamin Rees delighted to be in the booth with this one, joined by Gigi Morrison. Gigi, in terms of styles, I think we could have a really fascinating game.
Oh, fascinating it certainly will be. These teams are the antithesis of each other in terms of style. Italy going for the generally long ball game. Singapore, very quick pop passes, as we get a quick look at the pools previously. So both of these teams coming from Pool A and Pool B. Italy topping Pool A with 3 wins under their belts. They were on the stream yesterday against the Netherlands, taking that game quite handily. But Singapore, on the other hand, coming second in Pool B. Still quite a tight game against Canada, who topped the pool, that scoreline being 15-10. Now leading into power pools, they are both in power pool E.
Yeah, they're joined there by the winners from Pool C, Colombia, and the runner-up in Pool D as well, who is Austria. The other top power pool, Canada, United States, Netherlands and Poland. The top 2 teams in each of those top power pools, E and F, get a bye into the quarterfinals, whereas the bottom 2 teams in each power pool face the top 2 teams from the bottom 2 pools with a chance to make the quarterfinals. Singapore beginning on offense then in the white, going from left to right to start, and we're starting with 4 male and 3 female matching players. These two sides played a scrimmage before the week started as a little warm-up game. Singapore won that one handily, but this might be an inauspicious start because the Italian player is saying that a Singapore foot was on the line there. Seeing it live, my initial instinct was that I think her heel might be on the line.
I didn't have a clear perspective on the catch. Did you? Okay. Yeah.
I think she had both.
Okay.
Okay. With you.
Okay.
The call seems to be retracted. Yep. Some discussions with game advisor Merritt Tran.
Alessandro Spiritigliosi had a little look over at the replay screen and said, okay, the heel does come down on the line, but it's not the first point of contact, it's the front of the foot. And so that's inbounds, and Singapore get away with one a little bit there because Valerie Young made that closer than it needed to be.
I mean, it's very difficult to be able to see where your back foot is stepping sometimes. I've certainly done it where I've straddled the sideline, especially in a zone setup like this that Italy have put on against Singapore.
They utilised zone really effectively in that streamed game yesterday morning against the Netherlands, designed to shut down the deep game from a very rangy Dutch side. And Singapore will pose a slightly different challenge as that throw rises. It's tipped, but Prahadish Rajendran is able to collect it at the second attempt. Utilising the offhand there. Singapore, they really do keep the disc moving. They don't like to be bogged down at all.
They make it look so easy, the way that they're weaving the disc between each other. Most of these players have not been playing for particularly long, 1 to 2 years maybe.
But it's a coaching system that Travel called that emphasizes fundamentals. It's, you know, getting crisp, clean throws out, and they really do prioritize handler movement. Not only just collecting the disc, but releasing it in that smooth motion, and you're already on the move to get a return pass.
This Italian zone is working very well to slow down the passes. It seems to be similar to some sort of junk zone. Really good pickup.
That's an exceptional catch there.
They have 1 person on the mark and then 3 flat across, although, yeah, it's much flatter than a junk zone. Usually a junk, you have a 3-person cup and then 1 person on the mark trying to swallow and surround the person on disc, but this is much flatter, forcing them to go laterally across the pitch.
Italians trying to use Eduardo Colonna to dissuade any deep shots from going up, and so far that seems to be working. But Singapore, it's taken them 50 passes, but they are inching their way down the field. Tom's back on stats this morning, and he's going to be kept busy because if you read the Ulti World Daily Recap article posted by the noted intuitive journalist Benji Reese, I've heard of that guy. He said that Singapore probably have the highest pass per possession count of any side at this tournament. I think he might be right.
Suspiciously correct.
Curious. Stoppage. And check back in. Sky Fong. Just a little popped reset. Back to Caleb Tang. Now they've maybe found a little bit of energy behind through, but maybe too much go on the throw and go there from Prahadesh.
You can see when Singapore catch the disc, they're immediately looking for another handler dump option rather than going straight downfield.
I think the fact they've only been playing a couple of years, but they all seem so closely ingrained, and part of that is because obviously Singapore, you know, a much smaller pool of players to draw from, about 200, which is still pretty good for this age group, but they're all on the same page. They've all got this same philosophy in mind, and 78 passes later, they're in for the score. Or are they? This one might come back on a call. 78 passes. This is juniors. This is the patience and the... Yeah.
Okay, they're calling violation.
Acuity.
Okay, what's the stall? Okay, all right.
I think potentially travel with the foot coming off that end zone line. And we are back in play.
Italy going to match defense rather than sticking with that zone.
Still count got to be rising and just past the bidding defender into Sky's hands, and that one will count. So maybe not 78, but 79. No, it was 78, of course, because the previous one came on the board. I know how maths works. Yeah, 1-0 to Singapore after a hugely mature possession.
Very clinical. They were decisive about which throws they wanted to make, which options they wanted, even when it came down to this end zone pop pass. They weren't really running down the clock, but they also weren't rushing anything.
Having a look there at the number 11 for Italy, Luca Peroni, was mighty impressive in their game against the Netherlands yesterday. A couple of assists, 7 goals, especially when they were able to turn the disc over, because he gets a lot of run out on their D-line. He's very good around the end zone, lots of crisp throws, taking on aggressive inside shots, but they isolate players so well in the end zone, and so often he's one of those players. He'll pick it up on the sideline, they'll get it into the middle, and then he'll attack back towards the centre of the field to collect a return pass.
A vital but dangerous style of player to have for a very young side.
He's just 17 years old, Peroni, coming out of the Costa Rica program that is so prominent in Rimini, out on Italy's Adriatic east coast. Singapore, as we expected, come out with a zone of their own.
Very different style of zone compared to Italy. It's almost like an upside down arrowhead. So they've got 3 marks closer in towards the handlers. They have 1 person in the middle as the mullet, 2 wings and a deep.
The mullet?
Oh, well, that's always what I've called it, as a mullet.
Oh no, I like it. There is, however, space behind that front line. A blade gets it beyond. Singapore players asking the question about whether that foot was out of bounds.
It looked into me.
I think it was just about in, but again, both teams have had slightly close run things, and
just get another look at that shot. That looks in.
Guan Jian, I think, actually was retracted the call after his teammates said actually, yeah, no, all good from our perspective.
It's worth making sure, definitely.
Always within your rights to ask the question. While Singapore's throws, they were kind of quicker, zippier. They weren't really getting the more expansive swings. Italy certainly are getting a little bit more aggressive with some of the shots. That scuba, though, sells Ravasio a little bit short. Singapore are going to get an early break chance.
The angle of release on that scuba did cause it to almost die in this light wind this morning. Definitely not as heavy as it has been over the previous few days.
Italians coming out in a match defense in the short field. Inside throw, feathered through to Guangjian. Finding the break around, it's going to float up. Italy intercept it back. And Italy shoots, putting some air underneath it, trying to find the size disparity downfield. Wide open in space, Andrea Cavalletti. Wants a little dish off. Oh, over the top, perfectly weighted into space for Niccolò Casali. I think the Italian deep game could prove to be a very big feature for them, which is interesting because when we talked to coach Manuel Belucco before the game, you know, he emphasised that this isn't a team that is necessarily Huck happy.
Yeah, it is an interesting thing because usually from, well, generalising European teams, but particularly Italian teams, they do love the deep space. We spoke about the fact that these two teams have opposing styles. Just get a quick look at that scuba. It's sat at the wrong angle, but Italy capitalising on that. And there was a really good level of touch on that backhand. It didn't just sit and zip in a gentle downwind here. Beautifully weighted.
Well, what I like is that having bombed it deep, who's the player who strides all the way downfield to catch it at the end? It's Niccolò Casali. Got himself the hockey assist, so to speak, the throw before the throw. And the score. So tied at 1 apiece. Italy, not with a clean hold, but with a hold nonetheless. Having a look at Brahadish Rajendran, 3 assists and 9 goals through their 3 games, so averaging an assist and 3 goals in each contest. He's, I think, a slightly different build of athlete than a lot of these Singaporean players, a little bit taller and longer.
Yeah, also only been playing for 2 years. It's ridiculously impressive. I'm not sure what the actual stats are compared to the rest of the tournament, but it's possible that a lot of these Singaporean teams have maybe been playing the least amount of time compared to many of the other teams, such as the USA or France or Italy, for example.
I mean, obviously, with the younger the age divisions go, generally the less players are going to have been playing because they've had less time to play. But, yeah, the Singapore team doesn't look like a team that's only been playing a couple of years.
It's a very professional outfit.
And they're not shy about their ambitions in this division, because we talked to the coaches beforehand, and almost before I'd finished asking the question about what their hopes were for the tournament, he said podium. They, you know, the mixed division, they are really targeting those medal finishes, as their mixed side did at under 24 level in Nottingham last year when they captured silver. Continuing to zip it through. Now they've got a little bit of dynamism beyond the front line and trying to get back into position there. Colonna, I think, has come straight through, and that is going to be a foul on Caleb. Making sure everyone's set back in position. A little bit of overcrowding there behind, but able to unveil the reset. Now Sky. Just resetting back to Caleb.
And Singapore have brought 4 handlers into that backspace. I'm personally a big fan of doing that in this type of zone. Italy have now transitioned to match, or at least a closer to match style, almost trying to assassin individual players.
Throw a little bit behind, but very good adjustment made by Caleb. Stretches wide into the centre. Celeste. Caleb able to skittle his way free. Just a little pop and push forward. Zion. Back to Caleb. Into the finish. They transitioned their offense superbly. Just kept the disc moving around. while they could alter from one setup to another.
Fantastic celebration. You can see how much it means to the Singaporean team. Very close already. We've had, I wouldn't say clean holds. I mean, Singapore have had two clean holds so far.
But they've not been quick possessions necessarily. Italy have made them be methodical and testing the patience in a way, testing their maturity. But once the switch happened defensively from Italy, they adjusted about 2/3 of the way down the field or so into that single coverage, and from there Singapore made the counter adjustment. Okay, we'll get into a nice tight vertical set downfield to give ourselves those clear spaces to attack. Valerie Young with the finish.
We mentioned earlier on that these two teams have played against each other already, not at the tournament, but in a pre-tournament scrimmage, and that going in Singapore's favour, 15-4. But Italy, so we spoke to their coaches ahead of the game. They said that they didn't want to come out at 100%. So they didn't want to reveal all their tactics, but they also didn't want to tire themselves. This is a week-long tournament. Using
it as like a tune-up in a way, get players kind of into game speed, because it's one thing being fit in training and it's another thing entirely actually getting out there and playing full intensity games. Italy start the disc moving around the backfield. Wind beginning to pick up a little bit. Lofting one over towards the far side. Plenty of time and space for Cece. Leaking free beyond is Spiritigliozzi. The bid came in and it just teased him like a cursed puppeteer, just manipulating it, and it agonizingly out of reach before Spiritigliozzi, having created the box, gets the finish to make it 2.
You could see Spiritigliozzi was waving his hands up on the far side, or the closest to the camera side of the pitch, streaking down the sideline saying, "I'm free, I'm free, I'm free." Did have two Singaporean defenders trailing behind and applying a lot of pressure, but just waited perfectly, sat into his hands.
So far the Italians have judged those hucks well. They've put some air underneath them, but they've not kind of over-exaggerated that edge. This time it's the 77, Beniamino Boni. Just has that continuation and that sit on it. And Spiritigliozzi is able to get on the receiving end. Yeah, they've not floated them too much, but just headed out a little bit, and they've not made them too zippy either, which sometimes with a bit of wind, I think there is the temptation to really try and laser those deep.
But the closing speed from Tan was ridiculous. Wasn't actually particularly close to Spiritigliozzi, and had to gain those extra meters to even apply any pressure. It ended up being millimeters away from the D. So Singapore on O again, looking to get another clean hold.
As well as coverage from our showcase field. Aussie World are streaming 3 pitches every game round this weekend. So on the 2 kind of auxiliary pitches with the single camera coverage, you can see USA Women against Great Britain and Colombia mixed against Austria, which is the other matchup in this power pool. But of course, you know, you want to keep your attention here for what is already proving an engrossing encounter. Pass, move, keeping things zipping around. Singapore already just outside pay dirt and then in past the bidding defender. Travel is called on the pass from Eden to Sky.
But already a much faster offensive movement down the field, slicing and breaking through the cup. That has been called a goal, saying that whatever call there was, be it a travel or not, it didn't affect the score. Another clean hold for Singapore.
That one was certainly their zippiest yet. They found that dynamism and they drove down that far sideline, and the Italians couldn't recover. It's a team that really does look locked in. I think it's Ravali who puts the effort in.
I'm not sure what the call would have been.
I did see Oliver Brown, who's the game advisor on the far side, making the signal for a travel, and he checks it back in and just pops it to Brahadish Rajenjan instead. As we mentioned, Oliver Brown and Merritt Trapp, the game advisors for us today. Luke Rimmer is scorekeeping and timekeeping, and we've got Tom alongside us on stats as well. There's a whole crew of people kind of behind the scenes, both involved with the production and with the running of these tournaments that you don't necessarily always get the chance to see, but it's important that, you know, I think they get their dues, because tournaments don't run without a lot of volunteer and staff help.
Certainly not. We're the lucky ones that kind of get our names out, but we're if anything the bystanders. We're just the voices.
We're a cog in the machine.
We're the annoying loud voices that get to say stuff, but nothing would happen without the production crew behind us.
Paul lands at midfield. The Italians operating out of their preferred horizontal set. They clear it out in the centre to allow Boni to slash underneath from the far side, floating that one up for Ravasio. And Ravasio, just a little slashing on passant cut there from Niccolò Casali, makes it 3 apiece. Both sides have really settled into an offensive rhythm now.
Singapore coming out on match defence and allowing Italy to set up possibly a pull play there from their horizontal stack, having the ability to play through what is probably their strongest play.
It was interesting to me because I think maybe you wonder if, okay, are the Italians expecting zone, so they're going to set up that way? But it seemed like, as you mentioned, they had a clear idea of what they wanted off the pool, and Singapore, coming out in the match defence, gave them that opportunity and just seals him off there. Throw goes up nice and early to not allow the defender to get a shot, and Casali makes it 3 apiece with just over 20 minutes gone in this game. No breaks of serve so far, just the one turnover aside. A very clean game, Gigi.
It's lovely to see. It's lovely to commentate for. Very much enjoying this game so far. And if you're enjoying the coverage brought to you by Ultiworld, make sure that you tune in to some of the future games. We've got some exciting matchups for you. Next on Field 1, we've got France versus Great Britain in the Open Division. That'll be at 11:30. At 2:30, we have in the Women's Division USA versus Italy. And at 4:30, we have France versus Canada, also in the Women's Division.
Yeah, this is the Ultiworld free game of the day. So hello to everyone watching on our YouTube channel. It's great to have you along. If you want to watch all the games, then you can do so with an Ultiworld subscription or with a tournament pass for the week as well. And there is I think, one free game every day for you to enjoy.
What a gift. Speaking of gifts, that was a beautiful up-line pass.
Present just waiting to be unwrapped. The reaching snag made there by Caleb. Dishing it back. Italians deciding that match defense is the way to go for them as well. Plenty of space to allow the swing pass, and then the continuation. Caleb's 2 yards away. The finish was a little bit behind, but a good late adjustment made. It's Valerie Young again with her second score of the game.
It's definitely a good call for both of these sides to opt for match defense. The wind is nowhere near as strong as it has been in the first 2 days, but it's beginning to pick up. So you see Singapore celebrating there. It's slowly picking up throughout this game. In the morning, it's nowhere near as strong. So match defense probably trusting their grit and athleticism to be able to slow down the passes, but we see the quick stutter step turn over the back shoulder for the score for Singapore.
Something the Singaporean coaches talked to us about was the importance of starting fast. In some of the games, it's taken them a little bit of time to really hit full flow, and especially for a lot of players, this will be their first big international event. You're not necessarily used to playing full 100-minute games to 15, especially not against top quality international opposition who are going to, offer a completely different challenge to what you might face on home soil. Certainly the conditions will as well. They said that apparently Singapore doesn't really get any wind at all, and this is about the lower end of what they would expect temperature-wise. So, again, something else that you have to adjust to, and it's tricky to be able to kind of maintain, stay locked in for the entire length of the game.
Yeah, the coaches were very happy to see that the sun had come out finally.
I'll be honest, so was I, because it was miserable when I looked out the window this morning. Just past the onrushing hand of Hannah Lowe. Singapore matching again. Casali comes underneath. Couple of players go. Cuts quite lateral, that floats into the air, tipped and batted. Foul called though by Loris Martini up against Lucas Wong for Singapore.
Martini saying, I feel like I had some sort of contact through the wrist trying to get that second attempt.
Have a look at it again, see for yourself.
So you've called a foul.
Yeah.
You're saying you had the position first?
I'm saying I was in front, so I have no view of him at all. So when I reach for this, I can't see where he is. So if any contact, it was him hitting me.
So you're saying he initiated the contact?
Yeah, because he was behind me and he could see me.
In my opinion, I just jumped and just dropped my arm. But
Would it be, do you want my perspective, or are you guys ready to reach a resolution?
I think I just
retract the call, yes? Yeah. So that's a foul that's been retracted. The disc will be coming in here. Let me get off the field first, please.
There we are, good productive discussion. Turnover stands. It's great to be able to mic up the game advisors as well so we can hear what's going on down on the field. And Singapore have got themselves another break chance.
They're not too far down the field to go. They're just past the halfway line, choosing to set up in a vertical stack.
It was bend but don't break the last time Singapore had a break chance, and that one is given right back, and it's going to skim along the turf for a few yards as well. Italy were thinking about the quick pick and rip, but Cavalletti instead goes underneath to Casali. Trying to double a cut on the far side, squeezing into Cheche. Martini seals out. Now Cavalletti looking at the end zone, wants to get the break into space. Analo sees the open side threat, drops in, and the swing goes to take advantage. Casali once more, just on the end zone line, still trying to fight their way over. Martini wanted the little pop, goes for the break, and slots it in there. Ariana Cosarini makes it 4 apiece. There's a player on their haunches for Singapore, but it doesn't seem like there is a call, and it seems like the goal stands, although I hope the Singapore player's okay.
It looks like there might have been some contact between the players, but number 1, Lucas Wong, is standing up again, just not reading the disc into his hands properly. It's easy to lose sight in this wind, but yeah. Italy taking advantage of that, getting closer towards the end zone line. The stack did almost dissipate and dissolve and started clustering around the handlers, particularly as the stall count went higher. There were a lot of cuts kind of flaring out rather than trying to sucker in and keep that discipline, but did eventually find that beautiful backhand around for the score.
Both times the Italians have turned it over. They've got it back almost instantaneously. First assist of the game for Loris Martini. We have an even numbered point, so we should have the same gender ratio as previously. Mixed using the ABBA rule, as it's affectionately called. So after the first point, you switch the gender ratio, and you switch it every 2 points after that. And the gender with the greater on-pitch numbers also pulls. So the fact that we have a male matching puller would indicate that we have 4 male matching players.
The 360 spin pull, landing just in bounds as well.
Singapore will try and get it moving before the Italians can advance upon them. Setting up quite deep downfield, trying to give themselves huge underneath spaces to attack. Isolating Caleb Tan, who sits on the flick before the backhand from Prahadish Rajendran. Asked too much of Valerie Young, who's been a very tempting end zone target with 2 goals already, but that one overshot, and it's the first time Singapore's O-line has surrendered the disc.
Valerie Young is a very speedy athlete. She's been instrumental in getting a lot of the central passes for Singapore so far, but yeah, that backhand caught the wind ever so slightly, just sank away.
What can Italy's D-line do on their first possession? It's a delicious break, but it just about evades.
The horizontal stack. The stack was set up very deep. I'm wondering if they were trying to centralise the disc, but Singapore's defence was just too tight.
Isolation at the front of the end zone. Felt like there was some sort of miscommunication between the force and whatever was going on downfield about which side they were taking away. And Caleb is able to just lay that one out in front of Prahadish Rajendran, who makes amends for the throwaway by catching the score, 5-4.
So we've seen our first cracks in this Singapore O-line. Hey!
Very well coordinated.
Yeah, we've seen some cracks in this O-line, so that's their first turnover, the first non-clean hold. One of the players that has been instrumental for Singapore so far is Caleb Tan, really slicing and dicing this disc around.
Yeah, 3 assists so far for the young man. And you can tell that, again, he's got that Singaporean style. He'll move the disc quickly. Happy to go every other, bounce it around and towards the red zone. Often they'll utilise him to unpick any defensive locks that Italy are trying to set. Still crazy to think kind of the relative inexperience of a lot of these Singaporean players, because it's, yeah, they feel like much more seasoned veterans.
But it just goes to show how deep the Singaporean ultimate community runs. It is very important for all of these players, and whilst yes, it is a smaller nation, so they're more likely to know each other and be able to drag in their friends to play. It's just wonderful to see.
Yeah, only started playing about 2 years ago, pretty much bang on, which crazy. But I think it's testament as well to everyone coming through with this kind of the same playing philosophy. Stoppage away from the disc. Singapore have crossed a lot of their O-line stars out there. See Valerie Young, Prahadish Rajendran, Celeste Tong as well. I think maybe they're feeling like now's a good time to maybe see if they can apply some pressure and grab the game's first break.
Just some discussion as to whether there is any sort of pick call. Valerie Young did go down clutching her ankle.
Yeah, ran into her own teammate there, it seemed.
Keep going.
So
Sorry, Italy.
While there was a stoppage, she was moving there.
So you're okay. So a stoppage had occurred, and then she moved. So you're saying that's a violation. Okay. Where should she be positioned? Okay. Do you agree with that?
But she doesn't call pick, so I'm here, and she doesn't call.
You're right. She didn't make a call, but if the play has stopped for whatever reason, in this case, you fell over. Okay, did you make a call?
There was a stoppage. There was a stoppage.
Okay, did you stop playing?
I stopped playing because
So a stoppage has occurred. Okay, are we happy? Yep. Okay, and are we happy with this position? Stall is none. It's going to come in with a check on you. Let me get off the field first, please. We good? Great, let's go.
One of those where there's not necessarily a call, but everyone stops, and thus it turns into a stoppage.
With some clarification from Ollie Brown, one of the game advisors, able to provide opinions but not final rulings.
Yeah, rules, clarifications, perspectives. Just kind of an extra pair of eyes, and that throw a little bit behind it was an adjustment made by Chiara Cheche, but despite her best attempt, she couldn't come up with it.
The defense had set up in a handler sag, so sitting off of that dump pass, wanting to try and force some errors that's occurred in this circumstance. Singapore calling for a timeout, get some water on board.
Yeah, Caden Yu walked to the disc, and I think he only ever had one thing in mind, and that was taking the timeout. They've had a couple of D-line possessions, haven't really been able to get too much going with them, and I think now they want to get something properly cooked up and drawn in so they can come out and attack with momentum off the resumption. Mixed power ball action then here early on day 3 at WJUC. Singapore lead Italy 5-4.
For the first time in 8 years, the WFDF World Ultimate Championships are here. The best athletes from 23 countries across the globe are headed to Australia to represent their nations in a competition for pride, prestige, and gold. Ultiworld is bringing you exclusive coverage of Worlds from the Gold Coast. See who is truly the best in the world. It all starts August 31st.
Welcome back to the World Junior Ultimate Championships 2024. We promised our, an intriguing contest. I think it's delivered on that. 5-4 Italy lead, their third break chance of the game. Offences have been on top, but the first time out of the game has just been called by Singapore, and they're operating out of a quite an orthodox 2-5 vertical setup.
This is a perfect opportunity to do some sort of pull play.
Taking on the around break before dishing back to Caden. Out in front, and then the pop-off from Brahadish running through. Happy to bounce it around the back. Looks like they want to run some dominator-style offense between the handling core.
Yeah, I love this handler weave. Just isolating the front 3 handler sets and then hopefully getting a continuation from the stack as and when needed.
But if it's not there, well, we'll just zip it around the back again, and the still counts scarcely getting above 1 or 2. Now they might be able to bog them down a little bit. The break requires the layout, superbly snagged there by Valerie. Past the bidding Boney.
And that's the continuation cut that was wanted from the stack. They did get pushed further back, deeper into the field.
Lovely leader down the line, Brahadish. Looking for the little pop in, and a touch on that final pass. Player is down for Singapore. Ravazio got a piece of it. Did she get a piece of her opponent as well?
Italy were waiting for that brief lapse in concentration as Singapore were, I wouldn't say easing down the pitch, but they'd found their flow and were able to find those passes as Ravazio managed to get that run-through block. And Singapore having to take an injury substitution here.
Yeah, Celeste Tong is having to make her way off the field. Hopefully that's nothing too severe. Anna Lowe comes on as a replacement.
Touch the ground. Yep. We're live.
Something I did like as well, I think it's the Italian Open side in the background there, who all made the injury hand signal when she had to come off, and I was like, that's good communication, lads. You won't get any points for it, but I appreciate it.
Just echoing the signal. It helps.
Really poaching onto the underneath, allowing the big wide swing, seeing if maybe you can get a bit on it, but it was well thrown. Boney now. They've got the one-on-one set up downfield, but Kaelan does a good job on the force to dissuade it from going. Now Cavalletti. Spreading it wide, Rovazio. Cavalletti clears through. They squeeze it through that bracket. And then zipped too far by Cheche. Took the right option on. Every time they go and cover that cut from the front, they take the swing wisely. They just miss the continuation.
And this is a defensive style that I've seen from Singapore before. They're willing to utilize their female matching players to poach off in the lanes, to get in the way and take on any of the undercuts, almost letting, as you mentioned, that wide swing come off, and not really being too concerned about that option, but trying to shut down any of those continuation, deeper downfield options.
The Singapore stack set very deep off the turn, which is usually a big red flag that you're going to get some dominator. Now integrating the downfield players more now. Zane feathering it up the line for Valerie. And Valerie pops it into the end zone. Eden catches the game's first break. I'm going to leave that as a question mark because I'm not sure whether he's in the end zone, although the Italian sideline is all signalling goal, and the call is retracted, and it will stand. Eden Tan then gets the game's first break. Singapore give themselves a 2-point lead.
We love some well-spirited matchups here. I'm sure that the Italian Open team weren't intending on signalling a goal in fate, well, against their own side, but it's very nice to see that they're taking the opinions on board. But yeah, Singapore now with a 2-point separation.
Just the one break in the game. How Italy respond will be key. It's not a situation they found themselves in the stream game yesterday morning, where they were on top pretty much from the word go. But you will see this at every tournament, but I think maybe especially in the younger age levels, where we've talked about how tough it is to sustain kind of your best play for the full length of 100-minute games. I think generally as well you do see teams in this age group kind of ride the emotional waves a little bit more strongly, and it can be difficult to kind of keep yourself level and balanced all the way through.
And that's where really strong team management comes into play. Both of these sides having not only multiple coaches but also physiotherapists on board, a strong medical team to help facilitate in the smooth running throughout the whole week. It's not an easy job, so definitely shout out to all the coaches and other team staff helping out your teams.
Taking the open swing. Belletti temporarily unmarked. As Singapore switch their defences again, trying not to let the Italians settle into a rhythm. But they're working through this nicely. Rigi has it back in her hands, running a little bit of a give-go. Simonazzi back to Casali. They read that bracket well and float it over the top. Sticky dump coverage, and Spirito Gliozzi comes to help out. Belletti finding Vianello. And now Peroni. Italy rotated a lot of players through this O-line. Peroni thought about seeing the opportunity for the punch in, and I think wisely holstered that one. A little bit of a blade on it. A stall out is called, however, by Caden Yu.
Italy have been moving so well through this poach set, finishing their cuts almost past the defender to try and eventually become available.
For me, it was way before.
Okay, I'm way too far away, guys, to be able to hear your stall. So I think...
Fantastic.
Yeah. Okay, so stall out, contested.
It's a very satisfying clap.
Almost definitely the best resolution here.
Yeah, with these stall outs, it's so difficult to tell, and unless you're actively timing it from the very start, you don't know whether it's a fast count or not. The game advisor wasn't close enough to hear, so okay, we'll contest it, we'll send it back. And Italy getting it back in play, taking the immediate reset. Don't want to have to throw up a prayer on stall 9. Belletti throws the around break to Rigi. Struggling to find their way over. Travel called this time. Checked in. A couple of players really want the pop. Oh, it's floated. And Brahadish picks it off.
Singapore now stuck on this front end zone corner. Very dangerous position. Also affectionately known as Coffin Corner.
You say affectionately. Singapore, however, been able to work their way past some bidding Italians. Down the line for Caden. Caden again attacking to Valerie. Physical, and Caden was just not looking at the pass. He went into that space and then turned away. The disc went and he had no idea.
Your miscommunication, that split second head down.
Peroni has the swing. Hits it. They can continue this to Rigi if they want. Bounced back inside to Belletti, who says, we're a little bit fractured now. I think we could do with a timeout.
Very wise call. I am, again, a fan of that.
It can be tricky at times to find the appropriate timing to use those timeouts mid-point, because so often you're in the moment and you're not necessarily thinking about, okay, would we actually benefit from having a little bit of a external oversight and getting that feedback on how to correct things. Ideally, if you don't have to take them, you'd rather not, but you have 2 per half to use for the time being. At least I believe that's changing from next year, but
it is?
I think so. I might have to double check that. So why not use them here?
It gives both sides an opportunity to obviously take some water on, to check in with each other, recenter, rethink your tactics, but also just take a breath. It's exhausting playing Frisbee for 100 minutes, and neither of these teams are particularly large in terms of their numbers compared to some of the other squads that we've seen that are 24, 25, 26 members large. Italy are down to 21 players, and Singapore even fewer than that. One of their players that has been rostered, number 0, Chen, wanting to send a little bit of love out to him. He's back at home in Singapore.
Yeah, something that we don't have to think about in the UK, but in Singapore, young adults are expected to serve a period of national service. And
within this age group as well, so lots of these players have been a bit more fortunate to have that exemption.
And the floater picked off by Caden Yu and given right back despite Valerie's best intentions. By the way, to follow up, from 2025, each team only gets 2 timeouts a game rather than 2.5.
Ouch.
Nice inside shot. Vianello. Going back to Simonazzi, who wants to take on the break but doesn't see it, so they're just going to bounce it around the back. Squeezing it through. Felt like there was a lot of contact there. Foul quickly accepted. So it will stay in Vianello's possession.
Italy seem to be a bit more clued into the fact that there is a female matching isolation from the defensive side. So they're keeping some of their female matching players towards the backfield, giving the disc to them more often.
But I'm not sure about the decision making or the execution there from Peroni. Brahadish though can't secure that one. Gives it back, and Spiritigliozzi just wants to get everyone back in motion. Italian coaches have emphasised the importance of flow offensively. Simonazzi again spied the reset, but it was a tricky angle to take on, and Simonazzi's throw hits the floor.
We've seen a fair few turnovers in this point, the most that we've seen throughout the rest of the game.
Oh, yeah, we've had 7 turnovers so far in this point, and before that we had only 9 all game.
Another timeout called.
Yeah, it feels like at the moment the game is very much in the balance, and so often with these longer, more marathon points, if you are able to come out on the winning side, it feels like you get such an energy boost. Singapore 6, Italy 4. Singapore's D-line has another break chance here, but both sides have lost their rhythm that was so fluid in the early part of this contest. Singapore playing their signature short game. Young up line for Caden. High release into the centre. Continuing around, it's low, going to require the bid. Got hands to it, but it wasn't enough. Spiritigliozzi takes soft deep, but just, well, they say discretion's the better part of valour, and I guess that was a very valiant holster, because decided that the way this point's been playing especially, we don't need to force things.
Yeah, you don't need to run and graft through absolutely everything. As much as we'd all like to, we don't all have the energy for that.
Finding Vianello underneath. And Vianello realising she's poached, so hey, keep running it through me while I don't have a matchup. Casali trying to come off the front. Creates a pick, and that will allow the defender to catch up. Guanxian. Tried to be hopped in, but Vianello is a step shy. Taking the reset into the centre, giving themselves both sides to attack now. Rigi just, and I mean just, past the bidding Brahajis Rajendran. And when you see a player flashing across you late like that, it's so easy to lose your focus. So Arianna Cosarini deserves a huge amount of credit for that catch.
Yeah, Cosarini with the mental fortitude to ensure that the disc got into her hands past 2 bidding defenders. It's almost so easy to think, oh, there's 2 defenders there, they're both bidding, I'm just going to lose, like, lapse concentration, I'm expecting it to go to dirt. But to ensure that it got into her hands, really phenomenal job. Sorry, that was Sara Belletti with the goal there.
You were right, it was the 78 rather than 28, Sara Belletti. Good eyes. It did feel like there was going to have to come a time when Italy were going to have to pull the trigger, and Rigi judged it well. She had a big defensive performance in yesterday's contest against the Netherlands. This time, her defensive impact, I think, has been slightly minimised by Singapore, but she's still finding a way to make her stamp on this game.
And Italy now within 1. I mean, they've not been too far behind Singapore throughout this entire game. It's much tighter compared to their warm-up scrimmage game before this tournament.
Yeah, it feels like it's very much in the balance, and obviously Italy will have taken some of the learnings from that game into their game plan for this morning's matchup.
And this is exactly the kind of games that we want to see going into the power pools. Evenly matched. Both of these teams deserve to be in the upper echelons of this tournament.
Wrenching that outside in backhand deep is Mariani. That is just too big.
Almost perfect.
But it was centimetres away from perfection. To be able to pull like that at this level is not bad.
Yeah, not bad. Not bad.
Certainly better than I could do, although that is the very definition of damning with faint praise. Italy zoning again now. Talk me through this setup, Gigi.
I'm struggling to judge it, but they have 4 people almost in some form of box or cup. So they have one person marking as the force, and then the other 3 are forming a cup. It's close to a junk style zone, so this is trying to slow down any flow and momentum and trying to force as many passes as possible, which increases the chances of somebody making a mistake.
It looks like they're trying to use Naclerio, just keep her position there on Sky Fong, which is interesting.
They have the front 2 female matching players almost on the force, and then the back 2 in the cup to try and break through any of the crashes coming in. They have 2 wings and a deep as well, preventing the overhead shots, really slowing them down.
Double team called. Resolved. Caleb sees a little threat through, almost got ahead of herself, but Celeste recovers.
Yeah, as the person on disc, you're able to utilize these quick pop passes as somebody crashes in through the cup, but you can also step around and fake to move this cup, break it open, and then find that slice through option.
They do such a good job, the Singaporeans. If they just take 1 yard here or there, it's nothing fancy, but it does advance you down the field.
The Italian defense has had 1 person peel off. So almost...
There's a floater, just to interrupt you. Feet look good to me, and they agree down on field. Good work by Celeste Tong. Back to the slow matriculation downfield. Prahadish just about keeps up.
So Italy have had the number 43 of Naclerio almost assassin marking 99 Sky Fong. Just knowing how instrumental he is in the backfield. With Singapore now slowly working their way down the pitch.
And Singapore, to their credit, they've realised that, so they've pushed him away from the disc. Travel called, I think. I certainly saw someone make the signal on the sideline. But that throw down the middle floats, and the big man, Beniamino Boni, picks it off. And he rips it as well. Gasperi has position. Prahajis Rajendran covers that ground, eats it up so quickly, but Luca Gasperi is calling foul on some contact.
Gasperi taking a second to consider what had actually happened and then calling the foul. And the closing speed from Prahadish Rajendran.
It's strange because he doesn't necessarily seem like he's moving that fast, but big long strides really does cover the ground well.
My left hand was just open, and then like you didn't catch it because whatever I hit, I don't feel any resistance, which means the possession was not caught. Possession meaning you never. I didn't have the possession. You touched my hand, not the disc. I didn't have the possession of the disc.
It seems like you disagree on what exactly occurred. I can't provide perspective because it happened behind you and we were behind you. So it seems like you're disagreeing, and I don't think they had a perspective. Are you happy with the contested foul call?
Okay. Ben!
Hand signals made there, foul contest. And they'll get back into position as well. Slap of hands as well. Again, sometimes you just need to agree to disagree, so to speak.
It was almost difficult to judge from my initial look at the replay. But Hadish initially got to the disc and on the follow-through then touched the hand.
Wonder as well if there's contact on the hips maybe, which we wouldn't quite necessarily see from our angle up here in our commentary position.
From the discussion though, they were talking about contact through the hands. So it's a very specific form of communication there.
The rules state that contact with the hand or arms that occurs after the... I'm trying to think of what the specific word, but after the result of the play has been determined, is not considered a foul, but is to be avoided. I think maybe that was Prahadesh Rajendran's point there. Either way, the result is a contested foul, so it will go back to Benyamina Borni. Every time there's a decision on the field, I find myself just reflexively making the hand signals as well.
Not the worst thing to do, really.
It would be very handy if I ever played.
But even the spectators on the sideline trying to echo some of the calls is useful, as we saw from the Italian Open team earlier on.
It's funny, isn't it, that hand signals are one of those things, now that they came in, you wonder, why did we never use hand signals back when I started? Sticky reset coverage, and a hand in there, knocks it away. Zion Seng. Just going to be a match defense this time for Italy. Picked up by Sky, wanting to take on the inside and then the around instead. Just leads Zion forward with the dish. Trying to get free in the phone booth. Boney bids. Oh, spectacular acrobatic grab. Boney beats the ground in frustration. Gasperi thinks that Singapore weren't able to get that down in bounds. I thought the Olympic gymnastics wasn't until a few weeks.
So, yeah, from my perspective...
If you want to wait a second, they're watching on the
screen. No, let's hear it. Let's hear it. Can we get a perspective?
Yeah. From my perspective, you had control and landed on the left foot first, and that was in.
Yeah, but he didn't catch the disc immediately.
No, and the second attempt. Yeah.
Go.
Some of the Italian players on the sideline watching the replay screen are agreeing that was in. Yeah,
from the replay, it certainly looked like definitely very much had control there and excellent reflex catches. Boney must feel so hard done by that he was able to create the pressure, get a piece of it, and Singapore still somehow came up with it thanks to a spectacular grab from Sky.
Sky Fung with the incredible control over his body, just keeping everything in bounds, not only focusing on the fact that you've got your defender bidding in your, well, past your direction, your eyesight, smacking through the disc, and then to keep yourself within bounds while still holding onto the disc, getting another look at it, tipped off the fingertips, caught in bounds, gentle belly roll.
Love it. And then the kind of the awkward wait. Yes, no, maybe, I don't know. But it was good for Singapore. They'll take a 7-5 lead. The half-time cap would have gone during that point, but it doesn't. But it hasn't really changed much. We will still have half at 8. There is a 55-minute half-time cap +1, like you would see at the end of a game.
And I'm enjoying the high level of spirit that we're seeing from both sides. They're both very fair-minded, willing to take each other's perspective and listen to their opinions and take them on board. There have been some contested calls, but it's not out of unjust.
A floater for Casali. A blonde-haired Benzi towards the far sideline. Cheche. zips that one through. Nice find. Rigi delivers to Benzi. I love the way they're spreading it around the backfield as well. They're keeping these players nice and wide to create those angles through. But Casali had already started looking at the next pass, and it scuttles through his grip.
A quick blink and the disc is gone, unfortunately.
The leading backhand. I felt like Guanjian was kind of setting himself to bid, but the throw just didn't stay up for long enough to give him the chance.
Incorrect angle of release. Just sat the disc facing with the edge down, causing it to sink. And Singapore are also setting up in this 4-person cup style zone.
Hammer over the top. There's time, but too much time. Caden Yu got a hand on it, but then he did come into Simonazzi.
Is that possibly the first overhead that we've seen in this game?
I believe so.
I love an overhead.
Me too.
Just get another look. The form on that hammer. Disc was tipped off and then the contact was made. So it's been called as a turnover, uncontested.
Pick. It's going to stay in Guanjian Go's possession. This is going to allow Casali to catch up. Singapore have a chance to break for half. Throw just off the fingertips, and you could see it hit the fingertips as well. That's not euphemistic, of Caden Yu. The Singaporean zone, now the wings kicked up, is really stifling Italy. Casali to Benzi. A little bit of lead on that one. Nice find through. Simonazzi wanted to push the pace and then thought better of it wisely. Did not see that angle from Benzi, but full credit to the field vision there.
I thought there was a miss throw for a second, and then saw Spiritigliazzi there.
They've bogged them down a little bit now, but just utilising the free player in the backfield to get the disc moving, reset that stall count, and what a blade through. That was extremely ambitious, and Singapore did not really have a huge amount of time for that.
I love that option, but would have wanted more zip on it to get to the receiver, to get to Simonazzi even faster.
If it worked, it would have been a thing of beauty. Spiritigliazzi getting a little bit close on the force to Wen Yang. Now miscommunication, but coming through, Guanjian catches anyway.
You can only hope to have two backup receivers in that space, really.
Sometimes you do have that problem where they do get in each other's way, and in the end no one catches it, but came good in the end for Singapore. Crystal. Back to Caden. Just floats that break towards the far side. There's the throw and go. Italy pass off the switch. Smoothly done. Now finding the inside window through. Jarrett. Guanjian. Italy really trying to knuckle down in the red zone here, looking for some bend but don't break. A couple of yards away, that'll work. Travel might
called.
take it back though.
Although the ruling on travels has changed in recent years. You are allowed to throw or release the disc using your momentum as long as it's not too many.
I must admit, I don't necessarily see the travel there. I wouldn't have called it.
I believe from previous rules that would have been considered a travel, but since the change, I don't believe that was a travel.
And then they are able to punch it in on the very subsequent pass into Felicia Lau, and that is 8-5 for Singapore at half. Ravali is just in discussion with Guangjian about that. And that is the ribbon tied on a fairly even first half. We're traded all the way up to 5-4 Singapore, but they put in 3 of the last 4 points of the half to give themselves not a sizable but a solid advantage going into the break. There's the deep shot. That was turned over, and then just going to set ourselves back in play. Check it in. 1 pass. Thank you very much.
A lot of variety that we've seen from both sides, so different defensive looks. The offensive options have varied as well. Some clever play on both sides, beautiful throws, a lot of clean holds as we saw in the first few points. As we get a quick look here, 4-2 in terms of clean holds. Total turnovers did increase towards the latter half of that first half, but Singapore with the extra breaks there, that has caused the separation here at 8-5.
Yeah, 2 for 12. I think, ideally you'd want to have that conversion ratio a lot higher. Italy, though, they've only generated themselves 2 break chances compared to 12 for Singapore. So even though they've not been as clinical as they would like after the turn, the fact that they've generated 6 times as many opportunities, I think, is telling as to why they've been able to build themselves this advantage. Thanks to again to Tom Mortier, who's on our statistics desk alongside us up here in the commentary perch. Delighted to be joined on the sideline below us by I'll put my teeth back in. Singapore coach John Yeo. Happy with that first half performance?
Our offense could have been cleaner, but I'm happy with the defensive intensity. Yeah.
You spoke to us before the game about the importance of starting fast. Do you think you were able to do that?
We are still slightly slower on offense, and we're not getting the correct spaces right. Yeah, but I think the team is slowly finding their pace back in. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been impressive to see. And you've thrown out a variety of defensive looks. What kind of strategies do you take into each point to decide what defensive look you're going to throw at
Italy? We just do what works in our arsenal. We just try everything in our arsenal. Yeah, and if it works, we just continue working on it. And if it doesn't, we just pick another of our tools that we have in our arsenal to try on them.
What's the main message going to be to the team at half-time?
I think it's to keep up the intensity on pressure and to stay calm and composed on offense and just move the D slowly in to the end zone.
Lovely. We'll let you get back to it. Thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate you giving your time for us. Lovely to be able to get that in-game insight as well. Thank you very much. Singapore then 8-5, the half-time lead over Italy here. First game of mixed power balls.
For the first time in 8 years, the WFDF World Ultimate Championships are here. The best athletes from 23 countries across the globe are headed to Australia to represent their nations in a competition for pride, prestige, and gold. Ultiworld is bringing you exclusive coverage of Worlds from the Gold Coast. See who is truly the best in the world. It all starts August 31st.
Welcome back to the World Junior Ultimate Championships 2024. Having a look at some highlights from Valerie Yong, an assist and 2 goals for her so far. And she's been involved away from the end zone as well. She's been an excellent finisher for Singapore.
She's been all over the pitch. Truly an instrumental player. Utilised a lot through Singapore's front 3 handlers. She's been playing for 4 years. She's currently a student. Basically starting around about 2020. What a year to start. Yeah, having a brief discussion during the halftime with Singapore's coach. They're just wanting to keep their foot on the gas, try and charge through and keep everything firing for Singapore. Italy having a fair amount to answer for. It's still only a 3-point difference between the two teams.
Yeah, the game is still in the balance, definitely. But Singapore, understandably, you probably think the happier of the two sides going into the break. We mentioned this is the first round of mixed power pools. Elsewhere in this pool, and also, by the way, live on UltiWorld with a tournament pass or with an all-access subscription, you can watch action from Colombia against Austria. Last we saw, Colombia had an 11-5 lead, so they are looking like they are coming out and continuing the positive vibes from their Pool C victory and looking to seal one of those byes into the quarterfinals.
Lots of mixed power pool play going on this morning. The next game that will be here on Field 1 will be in the Open Division. France versus GB.
That'll be tasty.
So make sure you stay tuned on UltiWorld. Got lots of coverage coming up for you throughout the rest of the week as we start to move into the hotter parts of the tournament, so going into pre-quarters, quarters, semis and finals on Saturday.
We got double women's action for you this afternoon as well, with the USA taking on Italy at 2:30 local time and France versus Canada at 4:30, and both of those games are mouth-watering encounters. Can Italy fight their way back into this after the interval? Singapore, again, they did talk about how they've got a variety of different looks and they'll throw everything out to find something that works, and they'll keep you guessing, they'll keep you on the toes. It's a zone this time, but the Italians are working through it nicely. It looks like they've been able to settle themselves somewhat over the half-time break.
I'd love to see Singapore's defensive playbook. How many pages long do you think it is?
Now there's the air out across field. I think that foot landed on the line.
We arguably have one of the best perspectives, but even I can't really tell from up here.
Obviously, as much as I like to think my opinion matters, what's important is the players on the field coming to a resolution they're happy with.
To get another look at that, all the players on the sideline are also getting a look.
Oh, it's so tight.
Oh, that is edging onto the line, but it's whether she established control of the disc before going onto the line or not.
I think my instinct was that she landed on the line.
Yeah. Yeah. From my perspective as well, your foot landed slightly on the line. I know that you tried to get it in, but I also saw it like this.
It is a turnover.
Yeah.
I think that's, in a way, what Singapore were hoping for, forcing the wide swing with a little bit of air, seeing maybe if the wind can catch it, and despite her best efforts, couldn't quite get on the right side of the chalk.
And some valuable perspectives and opinions from the sideline and from game advisor Merritt Trapp.
Singapore looking deep for, I think, the first time all game, but it's a hanger, all sorts of players underneath it. You can hear bodies collide. Some of them still down as the disc hits the floor. A nasty one.
Most players appear to be standing up. Yep, all of them are back on their feet. Unsurprising, there is a foul call.
Yeah, bodies coming from all over the strop. An absolute maelstrom underneath it. Elisa Vetsani, the Spirit captain, is going to come over to help aid translation.
That backhand floating. Probably a bit too much touch on that. There's multiple players underneath.
It's always tricky when there's so many players kind of conglomerating in one spot to work out how much contact was there.
Okay, I think that for what she said, she was riding, but you like already jumped, and that was a contact before the disc was up, and like everyone was trying to defend that. She didn't think she affected the game, her little contact.
Cioè io ho saltato un po' dopo che lui ha saltato.
She jumped after you jumped, so you were already in
Okay,
there,
right.
and she doesn't think it affected it.
Okay, so you can use tech for input. You guys have had a look. It's not clear from that. You can ask my input. I would say there were a lot of players. It was unclear. We've also hit a minute. The rules say once we hit that time, we should treat the call as contested. What do you guys want to do?
So foul contested.
Okay. Okay, so where's the disc? And let's try and get ourselves into positions quickly, please.
Oliver Brown just giving some clarity as to the process there.
Game advisor, but also a game shepherd. So the foul being contested means that the disc is going back to the original thrower, coming in at a maximum of stalling 5.
I think Oliver Brown was one of the original game advisors back at under 23s in 2015. I'm pretty sure people moved before that was checked in, but no one really seemed to mind. And Boney just runs through, undercuts it, and gets the interception. Smart peel off there from the Singapore defence just to clog the lanes downfield and prevent the scoring shot from going. Boney comes out of the end zone. Struggling to free themselves of space. It looked like a high stall throw, just the awkward angle of release, but Boney thinks he got it off.
Maybe before 9. It doesn't make sense, your call.
From my perspective, right, I felt that you threw on the tee of the 10. Like you released on the tee of the 10.
It was way before, and you also, as a, how to say it, fast count.
Yeah.
You hit a fast count, and I throw before the 10. It was in the middle of the 9.
So you seem to be disagreeing on what happened. I couldn't clearly hear the stall count over there. So
Are you very sure that they threw a 10?
Yeah, I'm very clear that you threw on the tee of the 10.
No, yeah. It's okay. So
Okay.
contested call.
Okay, so we have you're contesting the stall count based on saying they fast counted. Is that what you're saying?
Either fast count, then
Okay.
I threw before.
Okay. At least the fast count would lead to. Yeah. So contested stall out is what I'm hearing as your result.
Yeah.
Players now agreeing. Contested stall out coming in, now stalling 8.
Does feel like generally those stall outs are contested because it's so close to work out whether or not you got it off in time.
And it is very difficult for the game advisors to be able to provide their perspective in that circumstance. You can't always hear the stall count.
Martini putting air underneath it. He's got a big receiver in Boney, and he goes up nice and early and easily. Hug for his opponent as well, as Italy on the board in the second half, 8-6.
Gotta love that gentle cuddle at the end there. Oh, thanks, Benji. But respect for each other as opponents, that is the number one beautiful facet of this game, is being able to respect each other. Italy immediately taking their line.
Actually, what I really liked as well is that you might have seen it on the camera, but just afterwards, in front of us as well, Boney came over to Guangjian and say, yeah, no hard feelings, just agree to disagree, slap hands. Yeah, all this, but I must say, even when we have had calls, the attitude, the approach to them has been very open-minded, I think.
Not sure it was an intentional hug, but they both went with it.
Ah,
why not?
Well, one of the things that I always advocate for, and why it's so great to come to international events like this, is that you will make friends from other countries, and those are relationships that you hope ideally you see throughout the years as well. Certainly I'm still see people that I remember meeting over a decade ago when I started, right? International friendships that you cultivate through kind of years of playing against each other, and you kind of get that little sharing of knowledge as well. It's one of the lovely things about playing and representing your national team, as that ball takes an awkward angle and rolls back towards Italy's end zone.
That is punishing for Italy's defense.
And they're zoning themselves. Singapore again happy to play the patient game, the slow matriculation downfield. Miscommunication there though, and it's off the hand of Caleb.
Just quickly checking the direction of the wind, picking up some grass and letting it blow. Stuck on the sideline.
There's no grass up here, I don't know how you're doing that. And then I remember that you're talking about what's going on field. That throw is just behind, down the wrong line. And Singapore wasting no time, wanting to strike while the iron is hot. Travel called, as Valerie Young was able to get underneath that one, which was important, because if she hadn't, you can be sure that the Italians wouldn't be so worried about the travel, as they wouldn't have to be.
I think it's
down.
Okay. So they are also calling it down as well. Did not have an angle on that.
I think this is a sign of touch the ground before you take it. I disagree. Okay.
Okay.
For my perspective,
so just get another look, different
You got
perspective.
time, yeah?
Okay.
you make this, but this part touch the
Sorry, mate.
So you made this.
Unfortunately, that was one of the other Singaporean players just in the camera's view.
For me,
I believe that's known in broadcast circles as a finny.
Italy, thank you. Yep. The disc is fine. Do you want my perspective?
Yes, but I think it's down.
Okay. Do you want my... Well, we've hit 45 seconds. You've heard multiple perspectives. Are you changing your position? Okay. So that's a contested down, so disc back.
It's down.
Well, so from my perspective, the front edge of the disc hit the grass before you closed control on it. That was my perspective. Okay. So this is what we've resolved, yeah? No, wait. She's okay. So let's put the disc down. Okay, guys, let's turn over. Okay.
Slightly lengthier conclusion to that one, but we got there in the end. Nice high grab there by Simonazzi off the resumption, and Simonazzi's airing it out down line on a rope as well to Luca Peroni. They've got numbers downfield. Can they hit them? Slashing forward is Vianello. Singapore recover and drop off. They don't want to leave any open space in that end zone. Mariani punching it in, slashing towards the far sideline. Luca Peroni gets Italy's first break of the game. They're only one down now at 8-7.
Oh, it's definitely heating up. A few stoppages on the way there, making it a bit trickier to gain some flow, but after that turnover, Italy working as quickly as they possibly could. Singapore's defense was caught on the back foot, and it just meant that they were able to charge their way down the field and find that option in the front corner of the end zone.
Italy have come out in the second half with a renewed intensity, and Singapore, I think, are struggling to match that a little bit now, and they've chosen to take a timeout, I think, just to collect and gather themselves, as you see a replay here of the scoring pass, the ability to get free in a phone booth down the far sideline into Peroni for the score. And he is, I think, quite understandably, pumped about it. Thanks very much for watching in our free YouTube game of the day. A reminder that if you want to see all the action this week, then you can do so with an Ulti World subscription, which also gets you access to the Ulti World Discord, to the bonus sections of all the various Ulti World podcasts, like Deep Look and my personal favourite Eurozone. Not that I have any biases there. And help support the work Ulti World does. And you can also buy a tournament pass for the week as well, so you can get access to not just the other games on this field, but also the auxiliary streaming fields as well, which you can also do with an Ulti World All Access subscription.
It gives you access to multiple other tournaments coming up, international or US, whichever ones you'd like. Take your pick.
Mm-hmm. And if you're like me, then it's just about everything. I get a lot of use out of my Aussie World subscription. Because as well as the team here, they've also been streaming Masters Nationals back stateside over the weekend as well. Here's the pull from Ravasio. It's going to be fielded just shy of the end zone. Singapore will try and get it moving quickly before the Italian defence can get the jaws clenched.
Taking that four-person cup again. This does almost play to Singapore's advantage. They're very well trained in utilising as many pop passes or throws as possible, but it's still slowing them down. They're not able to get that forward momentum and flow as much as they usually do.
Bonnie thinks he might have had that first. I thought the catch was clean enough from Sky.
I would be tempted to agree with you there.
I appreciate that we don't always get the best angle of it initially.
From my colleague over there, it looked like it was at the same time, and the simultaneous catch would go to the offense.
I wasn't sure about the catch, so
yep.
I retire.
Okay, retract it.
Again, phenomenal spirit.
Yep, have the discussion. Okay, someone had a different, clearer perspective than I did. Fair enough. Caleb. A little short pass into the gut of Sky. The two of them just playing it between themselves, improvising, slamming it down the centre of the Italian defence. Travel called. Trying to get some other players involved now. Collecting the little dish off from Zion. And then the layout from Boney and the accepted foul.
Yeah, again, Naclerio is taking on the one-to-one matchup with Sky Fong. It's proving to be ridiculously effective. Singapore having to drag in and pull in some other players from downfield.
You do see assassin zones, but it's a little bit more unusual, I think, to see a cross-gender matchup in that. And the little pop pass there doesn't go to hand. Boney wants to air it out, looking deep for Peroni, but too deep in the end.
Great deal of zip on that backhand. It flew across the pitch.
Singapore will get to work once more. I think the frequency of these travel calls has increased in the last couple of points from the Italians. I wonder if that was something that maybe the two sides talked about at half-time, because I did see the Spirit captains having discussion with the game advisors during the half-time break.
You'd usually see the greater amount of calls coming from the initial, like from the first half, then the Spirit captains talking, rather than the other way round.
High stall now, surrounded. Bonnie is a huge force to try and work around, but Singapore are able to unleash it. Goes back to Sky.
Stoppages already in this point, it's really slowing down the game.
And after a lightning quick start from both sides, the pace has certainly decreased, and it's a much slower tempo.
Just over 4 minutes left on the clock, so we reach soft cap.
So this is not going to go all the way to 15.
It would be impressive if it did.
I think the lowest scoring game we've seen at the championship so far was 11-9 win for Hungary over People's Republic of China. But I think part of the Singaporean style, where they don't necessarily utilise the deep game at all, and they do choose to kind of inch their way down the field rather than using more yard-churning passes, I think does generally result in lower scoring contests.
There's a double team call there on the mark. I was thinking that some of the Italian marks were inching closer sometimes by accident, where the Singaporean players are crashing into the cup and two defenders just happen to be in that space. So I'm sure it's not intentional.
A pick called that time. Caleb's cut coming from behind, and so I wanted to get it going before everyone was set. Italians find the opportunity to transition into one-on-one. Things I think getting a little bit fractious now.
Okay, from my perspective, you were also counting fast. Also faster than you showed later. So the tempo you had, now, good. The tempo when you're counting was faster than that.
Okay, sorry, I apologize.
Okay.
Was it 5 or 6?
This is now a stoppage, this is a marking violation.
Okay.
And you've accepted that it was fast count, so it should start on 1.
Okay.
Just coming back in from 1. High, but Sky is able to keep that foot down. Bisects the Italian defenders to squeeze that one through, and now a leading pass, which Caleb hops into the end zone to allow Singapore to open that 2-point lead.
As soon as Italy transitioned to their match defense, Singapore were able to find their flow. I feel like I almost have to pause at the same time. It just makes sense. Letting Singapore do their celebration, but you can see how gelled their offense is. As soon as there was one-to-one matchups, they were able to find those options, slicing through defenders. Quick stutter step to the side, and then little almost air bounce backhand. Not quite, but almost.
Just under a minute left until the time cap, so we'll have, presumably, it will go before the end of the point, which will give us 9-8, game to 10, or 10-7, game to 11.
So Italy definitely not out of this matchup. As you mentioned, if they score this next point, bringing it within 1, they'd only have to score a further 2 points to win this game. But Singapore have been fighting this whole time.
Did see who's Luke Rimmer, who's on scorekeeping and timekeeping duties, has just blown the whistle, so cap comes on at the end of this point. That one towards the sideline, didn't have the space to accelerate all the way through it, and that allowed the defender to burgle through. Eden Tan getting the block.
You're almost marking on the back shoulder, allowing the Italian player to be guided under, just suckered in before going for that run-through block.
And Singapore want to create themselves that comfort zone, that cushion again, taking a timeout to get themselves a 3-point advantage. 9-7, Singapore with the advantage. Soft cap just about to come on here in the first round of mixed power pools.
For the first time in 8 years, the WFDF World Ultimate Championships are here. The best athletes from 23 countries across the globe are headed to Australia to represent their nations in a competition for pride, prestige, and gold. Ultiworld is bringing you exclusive coverage of Worlds from the Gold Coast. See who is truly the best in the world. It all starts August 31st.
Singapore setting up then, coming in off the timeout, a chance to break the Italians and open up a 3-point lead late in the first round of mixed power pools. Benji Rees and Gigi Morrison in the booth for you for this one. Italy choosing not to match up 1-to-1, coming off the stoppage, but going back into zone. Plenty of players in the handling set at the moment for Singapore. So they often want to do, just allow them these short little passes, never more than a yard or two, but that time Caden's momentum was going one way and the disc was going the other, and they give it right back to the Italians.
Yeah, crucial mistake. Can Italy capitalise on that? Find that clinical flow that they've displayed in previous points?
Burrows his way underneath, doesn't get it at the first attempt. The hammer didn't sit for long enough, and it's past the bidding Benzi. Caden picks up quickly with the gratuitous ground tap, and now they just run the gauntlet for a little bit. The fake sell Spiritigliozzi. Celeste now back to Caden. Into the end zone. Plenty of time and space for Eden Tan. Singapore make it 10-7 in a game 2-11, and they are in a, well, they're not home and hosed, but they can very much see the finish line in front of them.
Italy in a much stickier position. They've got a fair few points to pick up now. We've seen some shine from Italy, as we saw Chiara Cecce stuck on the sideline, wasn't liking the options that surrounded her. And Singapore picking up and just going. They know that this is what they do best. Just finding those options to give go as quickly as possible, work through the handlers. So much confidence behind their own throws, but also their teammates to provide wide open cut options.
I mean, they're so happy to take these open passes. It doesn't matter if it's just a yard in any direction. We'll just constantly keep it ticking over. The stall's never getting too high. You're making these slight micro adjustments. You orbit slightly differently downfield, and Eden Tan, somewhat quietly, has notched up quite a stat line, a block and assist and 3 goals.
So it looks like Italy have transitioned some of their defensive line players onto this O-line.
Got a hold here, and then you need 3 breaks on the spin in Italy's position, which is obviously not going to be easy. In the other top power pool here, mixed power pool F, by the way, Canada beat Netherlands 15-6, and USA saw off Poland 15-8. There's a deep shot from the Italians. They're hanging it up. They're looking for the big man Boni, but ripped away by Eden Tan. That is a hell of a defensive block.
The sideline has erupted from Singapore. Yep. What a huge bid.
When you've gone up like that, you kind of wonder why you don't air it out a bit more from Singapore's perspective. Accepted foul. Jack back in, leading it down the line to Brahadish. Beautiful around break. They're trying to zip the inside through, but the window closed, and the quick pick from Gasperi, having got the break. This one for Boni is on song. Italy, well, they've managed to get the hold in. Now they need to see if they can get the break train chugging away.
The second attempt for the deep shot to Boni is successful this time. Still had to go for the layout grab, but it's given them another point. They're within 3 of taking the game.
I mean, look how quickly all the Italian players are down on the line there. They are bang up for this.
Get another look at that backhand. This was the initial attempt. Huge ground covered.
I mean, that is straight up theft. And then, having got the run through block, Gasperi doesn't hang around. He sees the one-on-one matchup. Boni just lays out to make sure at the finish.
He might not have needed to. Could have taken an extra few
Well,
seconds, but just wanted to make sure.
Did he really need to? Maybe not, but it does energise your team a little bit.
For
and maybe
fans.
if you feel more comfortable, actually, if I lay out, am I going to get 2 hands to it rather than just the one? And yeah, for the fans. Got to do it for the fans, right? For the culture. I'm told that's what people in this age group say.
That pull rolling out on the close sideline.
It's not a bad thing, though, for Italy, because it means they can get their defence set and it prevents Singapore from going quickly. Almost like faking a handoff there. American football style. A little bit of play action. Yes, no. Going to pull it out of the gut. Last thing you need is a handover.
This is not the most comfortable sideline to be on. You're facing the wind ever so slightly, and particularly when you've got the 4 defenders in that cup surrounding you. You do kind of want that quick option standing behind you to help you out.
Okay. You are calling foul, is that correct? What happened according to you?
Her hand hit the disc.
Before you released it?
No, she doesn't release the disc.
Okay. Would you like a rules clarification? Because as long as the disc is in the hand of the opponent, that is considered part of their body. So you're not allowed to hit the disc until the disc is released.
Okay, but
so that would be considered a foul.
Okay, I will contest the foul.
Okay.
So from 0.
Yeah,
okay.
Saying 1.
Yeah.
Okay. So an accepted foul, stalling 1.
See.
Finds a little bit of space on the resumption to side that blade down the line. Leader into space. Lovely throw from Brahadish. Valerie gives it back to him and collects the return. The two of them just playing between one another at the moment. Caleb now getting involved and resets his feed on the travel.
Calling the double team.
Italy adjust their positioning. Little push pass forward. Not sure there's a team that throws as many push passes as Singapore.
Fair few travel calls being brought into play here. It's definitely slowing down this momentum, but Italy know how close Singapore are to taking this game.
I believe that's the French singing Happy Birthday you can pick up on the field, Mike. They're getting ready for their matchup against Great Britain in our next game here on field 1. Caleb resetting on the travel. Trying to marshal the offense. Prahadish looking, suggesting, and just a little pop into the arms of Luviarong. And Singapore capture the win. They get their power pools off with a victory. 11-8 final score.
And Singapore take that win. Absolutely ecstatic. The Italian defense in that last point, just as it got closer to the end zone, taking their eyes off of their mark for a split second. The cutter, Luviarong, really powering through, making sure to complete that cut. And it's given Singapore that win. That was a phenomenally well-spirited game. Both sides were gritty and fighting for it the whole time. A fair few calls in the last few points did stifle the momentum, slowed the gameplay down, but everything was discussed well. Calls were resolved fairly. It still puts Italy in a good position towards this latter part of the power pools.
Singapore, exactly the start to this stage of this competition that they would have wanted. For Italy, they'll have to bounce back in their next game this afternoon. A back and forth encounter at the start. Singapore able to pull away towards the end of the first half, and in the end winning by not a comfortable but a solid margin. 11-8 then final score here. Singapore over Italy here from WJUC 2024.